Let's go!
Alright guys, welcome back. So today I'm up the creek. As you can see, it's nice and sunny, but it hasn't been. We've had about 5 days now of consistent rain, so every day's been pouring, cloudy, not really ideal fishing conditions. Water temps dropped massively, so I haven't been out fishing. I have been busy at home. Anyone following my social media see that I've got a newborn daughter, so that's keeping my hands nice and full. But no, it's awesome, I love it. So yeah, today the weather's still not really great. It's probably blowing about 25 knots, but for the last 5 days it's also been blowing between 30-35 knots, so definitely not ideal fishing conditions. As you can see, the water's really brown, and we're in one of the smaller creeks in Mackay today where it wouldn't have much influence from the fresh, but as you can see, it's filthied this one up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through all the rods and reels that I use for what applications, and basically give you all a rundown of that stuff. Alright, so whenever I'm up the creeks, I've usually got the same sort of rods in the boat each time. So all my rods at home are sitting in a rack. A whole front row is all for estuary and inshore stuff. And basically this is what we're looking at here. That's the layout there. It's all high quality gear. I don't really muck around with the cheaper stuff. I do spend a lot more time than most on the water, being a sales rep in the fishing industry. So I do go through, I do find flaws in any sort of equipment that's not really up for like commercial task, I guess you could call it. But yeah, the amount of time I put on the water, I just, you know, I buy all my reels, I buy all my rods. I'm not getting everything given to me for free, so I like to buy like good quality tools for my trade, I guess you could call it. All right, so yeah, you will notice I run a lot of the Dobyns rods. That is mostly for the reason that they got that lifetime expedited warranty, so it doesn't really matter how I break it. You know, I always know that I'm going to get a, you know, roughly half price rod. So yeah, just something to keep in mind when you're looking for rods, because, you know, accidents do happen. It doesn't matter if you jam the rod tip in the fan with these. You know, I can just take it into a local Dobyns stockist no matter where I am, and you know, you can get a replacement for around half the price. So, you know, Dobyns have been around for a long time. They're a popular rod, and there's a good reason for it. They're awesome rods, and that lifetime expedited definitely makes it, you know, just makes the choice a little bit easier. Over the years, I've done the whole thing, like going through all the different rods and reels and worked out what works for me. So yeah, as you'll see, there's a lot of Conquests and Stellas there. It's all high quality gear. It is expensive, but I do like to buy once. I'm a big believer in, you know, you get what you pay for. So just being out on the water more than most people, and you know, using the gear all the time, it does put a lot of pressure on anything that's sort of mid-range. I really like to go for the high-end stuff. I buy it once, and then I know it's not going to let me down when I'm somewhere remote in a good, you know, a good little system or something. I'm not going to have something fail on my reels or rods. You know, it's just a little bit of a safety net. I'd rather spend that bit of extra money and have the right gear for the task. All right, so first, that one there, you'll see me use it in all the videos. That's a 702 Dobyns Champion Extreme, Champion HP. It's only a 6 to 12 pound rod, but I am running a 30 pound Sunline castaway on top of that. So yeah, it's a nice thin braid. It's really handy for you know, just the lighter sort of applications. But if you do get a bigger fish, you've got a bit of extra insurance there. So this will, like I said, it's a 6 to 12 pound rod. This little rod has that much power. The Champion Extremes have a super fast taper. Like, it's ridiculous how fast these things are. It's got a really nice soft tip, which is perfect for all like your vibes and small plastics, and as you've seen, perfect for throwing little pointers into snags and that sort of thing. So I've got the 100 size Conquest, and that fits in my palm really nicely. A lot of people are scared of round profile reels, thinking that they're big and bulky, but these things are really ergonomic. They fit in your hand really well. And one thing you will notice with all my reels, I run the same handle on them. That's a Studio Composite or Standard Plus RCDC Plus, which is a sort of a thicker, heavier duty handle, and it's got the extra long knobs on it, which I find really handy. Like, you know, if you're in a fight with a fish and you take your hand off for a second, you can grab them really easy. They're really easy to sort of find. So yeah, generally that would be my first go-to if I'm casting snags for like jacks, barra, like smaller barra and that, and you know, just pikey brim and cod and all the good stuff I really like to catch. All right, so you will notice I run the same sort of handles on all my reels. So these are a Studio Composite or Standard Plus. is the brand. They're really hard to get your hands on, but they're really, really nice in the hand, really good with that little bit of extra length, just for the little bit of extra torque. All my reels are high gear, so I don't really look at the gear ratio when I'm buying new reels. I more look at like how much line they're going to pick up per handle turn. So with this one here, it's 78 centimeters per handle turn. My other ones I'll show you shortly have both got 79 centimeters a handle turn. So I find personally between 78 to 82 centimeters per handle turn is what I like. That's just me personally, and I find it's really good. With that longer handle, it gives you a little bit of torque. So if you're fighting a good fish and you've got a bit of structure or some sort of obstruction in between yourself and the fish, you have the speed in the reel and also the torque with the longer handle to fight the fish and control the fight, so the fish can't, you know, bury his head. So it just gives you that little bit of an extra advantage. It's not just for looks, it does serve a purpose. So you'll notice that on all my reels. That one's a 96 mil. On the bigger 200 size Conquest, I run a 104 mil. So yeah, it's not just for looks, it does serve a purpose. All right, so this is probably my biggest all-rounder that I use the most. So this one is a 200 size Conquest. It fits in my hand exactly the same. It's nice and small, not quite as small as the 100, just a little bit bigger. But this is probably the one I use most for my creek fishing, my barra and that sort of thing. I did used to use a Champion Extreme 703 HP, which is an awesome rod. Very high price tag to match it. It's super fast with a soft tip and heaps of power. But I just thought I wanted to try something different, try and get something a little bit slower, and I think I found the right rod here. That's a Dobyns Champion XP 704C. So it's 7 foot. I do like the 7 foot rod. It's just, you know, you put a lot less effort in with your casts. Like a smaller swing gives you as much speed as a shorter rod, so you can, you know, once you practice a little bit, you can maintain your accuracy. It just doesn't take much, just a little bit of practice, and a 7 foot rod you'll be casting as accurately as you will with a 6 foot. But you'll notice all my creek stuff is 7 foot, and there's a good reason for it. So yeah, that's the 704C. Beauty of this rod is it can cast everything from little 78 pointers, real small stuff, right down to 1/8 jig heads, little 3-inch plastics. It's got a nice soft tip, but this is a 10 to 20 pound rod, so it has a lot of power if a bigger fish jumps on board. But I've got that with 40 pound Sunline Castaway. I know, and I've been told many times, you don't need 40 pound for barra, but the Castaway that I'm using this is only a PE 2.5. So if you don't know what a PE, how they measure the PE diameters and that, it's PE diameters is a way of measuring, old school way of measuring silk. So it's made for measuring diameters of really fine threads, I guess you call it. So PE 2.5 is what I find is sort of perfect. When you're working a lure and working it hard, your line's not picking up a lot of water and it's not slapping. Because what happens is if you're running a heavier line like a P3 and that, you'll find that the braid gets waterlogged, and when you start whipping your rod tip, the line's really heavy, so you lose a lot of the energy you're putting into your lure just pulling the line tight and trying to wick the water out of your braid. So you do lose a lot with it, and I just find that PE 2.5 is perfect for what I do, which is a little bit of everything, as you would have seen on the channel. But yeah, that's the same thing. 104 mil RCDC plus handle. I've had these things for about 5 years. They're awesome. If you can find them, I highly recommend them. But yeah, that there is probably my most used combo for just about everything, right through barra, through to threadies, and even jack. Just with that light tip, being able to cast the small stuff, and then also being able to work a 100 mil pointer or 5-inch plastic. So yeah, if I'm vibing in a creek, this is the combo I'll pick up, like a 95 mil 20 sort of gram vibe. This is the one. I find it's really good vibing, casting smaller timbers, medium hard bodies, and sort of 4-5-inch plastics, skip casting plastics, all that with a nice soft tip. It's good for short little swings of the rod, can get fast like lure speed, and you can get your lure where you want it fast and accurately with this rod. All right, and then for my heaviest one that I use in the creeks, this one here is a Dobyns Cadence 715, brand new rod to the market. They've only been out, as you can see, the cork's like new. They've only been out for about a month and a half, 2 months now, but anyone who's seen them in the stores and picked them up will know that they're an awesome rod. Really nice, light, crisp blank, and yeah, super powerful. So I've got that one rigged up with a 200 HG Conquest. That's the DC model, which is your digital control. It sounds like a dead cat when you cast it, but it's a really nice reel to use. So it's actually one of my favorite reels, but very hard to find and get your hands on. So on that, I'm running 40-pound Sunline Castaway as well. Same reason as I said on the last one, that P2.5 is the right diameter for me. I find that it's really good around like when you've got a bit of structure. It's got good abrasion resistance. So yeah, P2.5, which is 40-pound, and I'll use this rod for more your like big timbers, 5 to 7 inch plastics, sort of heavier sort of things. And yeah, it's more of a, you know, if I'm sitting on a school of big fish, this is the rod I'm going to have in my hand. All right, so you would have noticed I use a lot of bait casters, but I do have some spin rods on the boat. That's him there. This is the one I use probably the most. It's so I do prefer to use bait casters, especially when accuracy is involved. I find when I'm working my lure with an upwards action, just having the reel on the bottom side is a lot nicer balance, and it's a lot less, you know, it takes its toll a lot less on your wrists over the course of a long day. So I've got this one here I use for smaller vibes. That's like your little 75 mils, and just casting really light little lures. So that's a little 3.5 inch BYS trout. Really cool lure, but it's super light and really hard to cast on the bait caster. While I still can do it, if there's any wind around, that's where spin comes in handy, and that's what I'll use. So that's a 704. It's a 10 to 20 pound. I've got 20 pound Sunline Assegai on there, which is quite a new product. It's got a water repelling coating on it, so it's super nice and slick, casts really well. But yeah, that's a little 3000 Stella there. I like to buy the good stuff. As I mentioned before, you buy the good stuff, you buy it once. So, you know, I like I said, I do pay for all my stuff, so I'd rather buy it once. But yeah, 704 Champion. I usually run this with probably about a 50-pound leader, because it's mostly used for threadies and you know, just when I'm vibing around rock bars, chasing little fingers in the creeks. If I'm fishing a little 3-inch plastic down deep, that's the combo I'll use. So also a really good little one for smaller top waters, like if I'm fishing drains. So yeah, it's always handy to have one of them on the boat. All right, and then we got that one there. That's a 4000 FE Stella, probably the best Stella ever made, if I do say so myself. I've had a lot of these over the time, and I've foolishly sold them back in the day, but I've got my hands on another one now, so I'm really happy with that. They're just a really robust reel. You can't kill them, eh? Like I had my old ones for like 5 years. I didn't service them once, which I don't recommend doing, but I did give them hell, and they kept coming back asking for more. So 4000 FE Stella. I've done the little handle upgrade. That's just a Gamexus knob, which is okay, does the job. I've got that rigged up with P2, which is a 35-pound Sunline Sigline ADV, which the ADV has like a deep resin injected into the braid, which just helps with abrasion resistance and that sort of thing. Super smooth, super thin and slick. It's a really nice line for all your spin reels and that. And I've got that on an NS Explorer. That's a 711H, and that's a 10 to 20 pound rod. It's got a fairly stiff tip to it, so it's good for casting bigger plastics. Like that's only a little one at the moment. That's a 4.5 Molex RT shad, but I will be able to throw sort of 6 and 7 inch plastics with this combo. And I usually run this with like a really heavy leader, like 130 pound, which sounds really heavy, but if you use the high quality leaders, they are quite thin. So, you know, 130 pounds sounds massive, but it's not really that thick and that hardcore if you're buying the good quality stuff. So yeah, I'll use that for all, you know, if I'm sitting on a big school of fish. I usually get pretty bored with soft plastics pretty quick, so I don't pick this one up as much as I'd like to, but I should probably do it a little bit more. But yeah, 711H, 10 to 20 pound. It's got plenty of power. If I do get a big fish in amongst structure, this rod has some serious balls, so I can put a lot of hurt onto the fish. So it's just more of a big fish sort of, or a heavy structure sort of situation, which is a little bit different to the 704 Dobyns, which I showed you, which is just a little bit softer tip, and it's a little bit better for finesse sort of techniques where you're sort of working the lure and twitching your rod tip a lot. Whereas this one with its really solid tip, awesome for slow roll, and just keep that rod tip at a 90-degree angle, and when the fish bite, it folds away and sets the hook instantly for you, so you don't have to do the massive big hook set. But yeah, that's pretty much this has been my newest combo that I'm running on the boat. I haven't really caught a lot of fish on it, mostly just cod and small stuff that you probably haven't seen in the videos that I've cut out, but yeah, looking forward to getting some big ones on that. All right, so yeah, that's the Castaway. It's been around for a long time. It's no secret product, but you know, I'm not a big fan of 8-strand braids on bait casters, just for the reason being, you know, your 8-strand versus 4-strand, you've got a 8 strands, and when you compare it to a 4-strand, the 8 strands are half the diameter, because let's say you're looking at a PE2, you know, you've got 4 strands that are, you know, that are holding it together. It's a lot harder to damage one of them strands, whereas with the 8-strand being half the diameter, it is it can get damaged a lot quicker, and that leads to, you know, line breakages. As you know, you damage one single strand of your braid, it absolutely destroys the structural integrity of that sort of meter of braid either side of it. So yeah, that is an 8-strand, and the difference with this stuff is that each individual strand is coated before it's woven together. So it's coated with like similar to a PET Coke bottle, like the Coke bottle plastic. Like, you know how abrasion resistant they are. You can rub a Coke bottle on the road and it's hard to put a hole in it. So that's a similar coating to what each individual strand has on this stuff. So it's coated before it's woven together, and once it's woven together, all the strands are actually like fused together. So it's a really good for abrasion resistance if I'm fishing around heavy timber, or if I'm casting into snags and I know my braid's going to be rubbing up against the trees or rocks and that sort of thing. I think this stuff gives me the best chance. So I've been using it for years and years now. It's an awesome product. It is a premium priced product, but you get what you pay for. That's what I run on all my bait casters. You'll see it in 30 pound and 40 pound. Just so you can see, that's the 40 pound there, straight out of the packet, and the diameter of that stuff, like PE 2.5, is quite thin. So for those saying I'm running too heavy using 40, the advantage to using this stuff is if I do get snagged, I've got an extra sort of 10 or 12 pounds break and strain as compared to all the other brands that aren't quite as thick. So if I do get snagged, I've got a bit more chance of getting my lure back, and less chance of line breakage. So yeah, as you can see, super thin, cuts through the water really nicely, and I just find that PE 2.5 diameter is perfect for all the estuary stuff I do. That's your Siglon ADV. Like I said, I've got it's called a deep resin technology, which they inject a resin into the braid after it's braided. So it comes in that green color there. That's the 20 pound. I've run that on a couple of little light ones, but I've just given the Assegai a go on the other reel first. It comes in that green color and also the multi. So just depends on what application you're going to use it for, but I just find the multis handy. I know how far out I've cast and all that. It's marked every meter pretty much, so I can tell exactly where my lure is. If I cast 2 or 3 meters past the snag, I can tell how much line to put back on my reel and exactly where my lure is going to be. So it's just all them little things that, you know, come together, which, you know, can make for a more successful day on the water. So that's the leader I'm using. It's a Sunline NY System shock leader. You'll see it in the packet like that at the shop. But I basically use this nylon stuff for everything. It's on every single one of them rods I've just shown you, minus the lightest one. And in my lighter applications, I'll run that. You've all seen it before, FC Rock. Awesome leader, but I am more of a fan of nylon for most applications, especially up in North Queensland where you got bigger fish with big head shakes. So one of the beautiful things about this line is you'll see, I'll get a good wrap on it. Now I'm tangled. But yeah, you'll see here, I've just wrapped it up. This is 70 pound, super thin. It is, what is it? It's 0.66 is the diameter of a millimeter. So if you compare it to a lot of other brands, it's probably more similar to a lot of other brands, 50 pound, but being 70, have a look at the stretch in it. It's got 30% stretch. So what that does is when I'm hooked up to a big fish, or if a big fish or something bites me on the rod tip, that leader stretches, and it acts like a secondary rod tip in a way, because the line stretches, and as that energy is released and pulls back, it sets the hooks for you. So it cushions the head shakes really well. If you get a fish jumping up and doing a lot of head shakes close to the boat, instead of getting slack line, you've got a little bit of extra cushion in your leader. So basically anything up to 50 pound, I'll run a fluorocarbon, and generally when I'm fishing below 50, I'm not fishing for barra. Like, you know, I'm prepared if a barra does jump on, but you know, it'll be a few tense moments just using a 50 fluoro. So generally I'll jump from 30 and 40 in the fluorocarbon if I'm fishing little vibes and stuff down deep, and then up into, I run a 70 and then also 90. I run 90 a lot when I'm chasing sort of, you know, medium-sized barra if I'm sitting on a good school and there's a chance of a big fish jumping on. But if I'm fishing exclusively big fish, that's the stuff I use there. It's 130, but like I said before, everyone thinks 130 is massive in the creeks, but that's only 0.91 of a mil diameter, so it's quite thin. It ties knots really well, super soft and supple, and you've also got that stretch. So awesome leader if you're up in North Queensland looking for bigger fish and you want that little bit of extra protection of the stretch. So it stretches a lot more than fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon does have its purpose, and I find it's mostly in finesse sort of applications, jungle perch, clean water, jacks, you know, sometimes up in the dam if the water's really clean and the fish are a little bit fussy. But basically for most of my stuff I'll run the nylon, and I find that works really well for me. So when you're in the shop looking for your leaders, what I usually look for when I'm looking for a leader is I'll have a look at the little diameter there, so you'll see how thick they are and you can compare the brands in between each other. Don't, you know, feel bad about pulling a little bit out and just feeling it, seeing how supple it is, seeing if it's going to tie knots, or, you know, a lot of the stiffer ones are a lot more abrasion resistant and that sort of thing. So just always keep an eye on that the little number down there which says the diameter. Like I said, 0.9 for 130 pound is like really, really thin. So, you know, a lot of people will be like, oh, you're fishing too heavy, but yeah, I'm fishing the diameter, and I know that's got the abrasion resistance for bigger barra and that sort of thing. So yeah, just keep an eye on that when you're looking at leaders. Another thing worth mentioning while we're talking about leader is these little leader wraps that I just run the little ones from Ocean's Legacy. They're nice and cheap, and they've got a little line guide there, so just keeps your leader nice and neat when you got it sitting in your side pocket. I run that on all the leaders that I've got out and I'm using. So yeah, another little handy one. Definitely keep an eye out for them in the local tackle shop. All right, so yeah, that's them there. So yeah, little 702, that's awesome for your smaller sort of stuff. And I do it for use it for a lot of snag bashing and that, sometimes vibing, but not always. And then I've got the 715 for all my bigger plastics and big timber hard bodies with the 200 HG DC Conquest. The 704C, that's my pretty much all-rounder. I'll use that for your 95mm vibes, 100mm hard bodies, just all sort of medium sort of hard bodies and that sort of thing. It's got the little 200 HG on there. The little 3000 Stella, I use that pretty much just for vibe and small plastics and really small lures, a little bit of top water too. And then the big one, which I run for bigger plastics pretty much exclusively. If I am just slow rolling a hard body like a big timber, I can throw it on that as well. So just the advantage of having multiple rods on the boat, so whenever something happens or a situation changes, I can have something rigged up and ready, and I've got multiple different rods which I can switch in between. So it's always handy to have multiple combos. Obviously we can't all afford hundreds and thousands of dollars of combos like I've got on the boat most of the time, but you know, just having a few different rods is always handy, so you're not constantly chopping lures off and changing. All right, so when the rods are in the locker, I always keep them in them little covers. Basically, if you're going to invest in a decent quality rod, you know, you want to protect it. So just these covers here, they are awesome for you know, just protecting your guides, and you don't sort of bend your guides back, like, you know, putting them in and out of the car, in and out of the rod locker. I always make sure, like, you know, they don't all have them sitting at home, but I've got 6 or 7 that I just rotate between the rods, whether I'm fishing inshore or offshore or whatever. I'll always make sure the rods are in them. They're really good. They'll stop you, you know, if you got them on a jig rod, they stop your jig from smashing your blank, and you know, just protect your guides and that sort of thing. So always keep them in that while you're you know, while you're not using them, or, you know, when they're packed away, just to protect them a little bit better. Also put reel covers on. Reel covers are really handy. Basically, if you're going to, you know, buy a reel, use it for a couple of years and then sell it. If you're going to resell it, you want to make sure it's not scratched and marked up and that sort of thing. So, you know, just the reel cover just helps to protect it from getting banged around. And yeah, I just like to keep that on everything, just to keep it in good nick. And then, you know, when something new comes out and I want to upgrade, I get the best price for resale. So just another little handy tip, but yeah, definitely worthwhile. You know, for 15 bucks, you can go and grab rod covers and some reel covers, and they'll, you know, just keep your investment protected. So yeah, that's basically all the rods and stuff, and the general tackle that I use. I'm not going to run into lures yet. I'll save that for another episode. And with this weather, I dare say we're probably going to get another one of them real soon, and I'll run you through my tackle boxes. That's them there. I've had a heap of questions about them tackle boxes as well. The boxes are made by Versus, and I need to go through and sort them all out, but I'll go through that once I clean it all up, and I'll run you through that in another video. But for now, we're about to go try and do a little bit of live scoping. So I've got Lionel on the boat. Lionel's a guru with the live scope stuff, so he's going to help me tune it up. I have been playing with the live scope, and a lot of people are asking me about it, but I'm not really confident with it yet, and Lionel's just going to help me set it all up, so you know I'm you know, on the money when I'm looking, and I know what I'm looking at, because at the moment I can see things, I can see fish, but I can't find my lure and I don't know where anything is. So hopefully we can get it tuned in today and see how it goes. Also today I've got a whole bunch of lures from Barney at Deep River. He sent me a little packet of his new chovies. I believe they'll be about an 80 mil and 100 mil. He didn't give me too much information. They just turned up in the mail with a little love note, so thanks Barney. And I'm going to give a couple of them a go today. As you can see, the water's filthy, so I'm probably going to go with a bright colour. Since it's a pretty bright day, dark water, that contrast should stand out really well, so that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to tie that straight on my little 702, and we're going to try and live scope something. I don't know what the chances are, but there should be some catfish around or something. We'll see. All right, that's us, we're out of here. We only just got out of the creek now. That tide's dropped out really quick, and that rain cloud come through, and just enough to wet everything. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, something a little bit different, and you'll just have to bear with me while this weather's trash. It's probably not going to be good for the next couple of weeks, so I'll try and do something with me lures. Everyone keeps asking what tackle storage I'm running, and I'll maybe walk you through them in a future episode. While I got you here, I just want to say thanks for the 10K subs. Pretty awesome result. I didn't really expect it to take off so well. Just over a year, we've got 10,000 people on board, so yeah, thanks for everyone for watching. And while you're here, if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that button.